Y'all remember that song "Money in the Middle" by Moni Love? Y'all remember that song? Well, this episode of Love and Marriage DC is titled Monique in the Middle. And that is exactly where she is here on this graphic. Okay. We are discussing Love and Marriage DC episode 7, Monique in the Middle. And we got to get into some things. Okay. We got Erana and Winter Williams facing off. Dun 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 dun. Now, we got to rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10, and then we're going to get down into the nitty gritty. But I want to know, whose side are you guys on? Are you guys Team Winter or you guys Team Erana based on what you have seen in this episode? Chime down in the chat below. Now, I also want to know what you guys would rate the episode on a scale of 1 to 10. And I'm going to surprise you guys, and I'm going to actually tell you that I'm going to give this episode a 9. I'm going to give this episode a 9. And let me tell you why I'm going to give it a 9. I think it was an important episode because I think that it's interesting how in these episodes that are nearing the back half of the season, we're really getting to know the characters a bit more. And these are some of these scenes that I'm seeing, I kind of wish had been placed earlier in the season because I think that what they really do is they really open us up to some of the characters and they really humanize them in a way that allows us to relate to them a bit more than the character types that I feel like we were kind of given early on. And I understand that, this is a first season of a new show, right? So I get it. There's only so much we can pack into what is typically a shorter season than most other seasons once the franchise gets going. But, for me, I felt like this was an episode that was important in terms of getting to know specific characters like Ashley. I think we got a lot more of who she is at her core. We got more on Quick, we got more on Chris Samuels, and I really felt like this was an important episode. So, for that reason, I'm giving it a 9. And again, guys, when I talk, a lot of times when I'm recapping an episode, and I say this a lot, I'm not always looking for explosions. I'm looking for nuance. I'm looking for story. And I don't mean storylines. I mean story. Like the whatever the person is currently experiencing that is unique to them and only them, and it is a story that they can tell that is compelling and it is interesting. That is what I'm looking for on these types of shows at this point, okay? And I felt like we're getting story now, and I'm really really enjoying getting to know some of these characters a bit more, okay? And with a little bit of mess thrown in, okay? With a little bit of explosion at the end because you could see Arena and Winter. You can see it, the fire beginning to get stoked. And it was interesting for me. If I don't know if you guys have watched the interview with Winter, she kind of tells us actually what's going to happen later in the scene. So you guys, because this episode ended on a cliffhanger, I kind of know based on the interview what's going to happen next. So you guys will have to stay tuned or tap into that video to find that out. Okay. But for right now, we'll get into the episode. This first scene is a scene that's cut into two parts, really. It's Monique going into her first day to work at WPGC 95.5 bright and early. She's got to get up at 3:45 in the morning in order to get to the radio. And we realize that Monique is perfect for the radio because she likes to talk. So she's found the perfect job for her. Meanwhile, we see Chris at home with the kids. We see him struggling to get ready because now he's going to have to get them ready in the mornings 5 days a week. This is something that he's going to have to do. And again, this scene is intercut with Monique being at the radio and experiencing her very first day at the radio station. And it really is nice because, when one of the things that is said by one of the kids is that, for all the people that, end up hating on Monique, they'll have to now listen to her on the radio whenever they're tuned in to 95.5 in the mornings on WPGC. So I thought that was kind of cute. Next, we get Ashley meeting with her publisher and her editor. The book we learned that she is writing is not just self help, but it's self discovery. And it's interesting to me that, again, this is why I found this scene interesting, is because we learn a bit more about Ashley, and for as outspoken as she has a lot of trepidation about even being on the cover of her book. And we learn that she's not really a fan of photo shoots and taking and looking at photos of herself, I'm assuming. So this leads me to something that I have been wanting to say to and about Ashley for quite some time. Ashley, we need more photo shoots. So let me explain to you guys what I mean. When I am doing, and this is a personal thing, but it actually made sense to me once she said this in the episode. When I am doing thumbnails, I do all of my thumbnails for this channel, and most of I have a couple of different channels, and some of them that I don't even, show my face on. But whatever, we can talk about that another day. When I am looking to create a thumbnail, let me give you guys an example. And if I'm recapping a show, sometimes if I can't find images directly from the show, then I will do this. I will go and find, images. I will cut the images out so that it's only, it's a transparent background. But what I'm looking for are images that are, show the women in the best light. They look beautiful and glamorous. I want, my thumbnails to, stick out because the women look amazing in them. And so when I'm working for Love and Marriage Huntsville to do my thumbnails, it's oftentimes hard to find actual, photos of Ashley that are isolated enough and that are like of, I would say, professional quality that I can actually extract in order to make thumbnail images. So this goes right back into what she was saying. Ashley, I definitely believe for you to now be on the show, you're now going to need to start getting into the photo shoot game. And you definitely need to be putting your face on that book, because now you are someone that people now know because of not only the fact that you are married to Quick, but you are your own individual and you have your own space on this show and you're carving out your own niche. And now with scenes like this, people are really getting to know you outside of the drama and outside of Quicksilver, which is absolutely important. So we learn a lot about her through this book, and this conversation with her publisher. We also learned that she's been diagnosed with depression. And again, this goes to show that, these are those moments that humanize a character, and it allows us to get to know them in a way that sometimes even having them go through a lot of conflict with another character, it doesn't really do them justice all the time. So that's why I really appreciated that scene. And I know I had to go down a rabbit hole in order to get to the point of where I wanted to go, but I hope you guys really understand why I am so adamant about personal story when I'm recapping an episode. All right. Next we get Monique getting home from work. She literally you know what? Hold on. Monique literally lets her head down. Okay. And literally takes the lock weave out the hair. I was like, I said, now that is the epitome of letting your hair down. Okay. She let it down and tossed that thing to the side. I was like, no, what in the world? But to me, that was a nice scene to see as well. Little things like that are what humanize again and make characters on TV shows relatable. And I never seen nobody do that on any of these shows. Like no housewife I've seen or no other character on any show have I ever seen just come into the scene and rip the weave out. I said, well, now that's some stuff right there. She was at home today, okay? I like little stuff like that. I notice it. She recaps her day, and Chris talks about how rough the morning was and how different it is with her not being in the house. And she's like, well, take it from me because, having been the person who was at home all the time, you have to develop a plan for the kids in order to make the day work in the way that you want it to, in order to win the day with all these kids. Okay. But she compliments him on being a great dad. And, he talks about how much he believes in her and how he always thought she was a star. And this is a scene that I felt like was much needed because for much of the first couple of episodes, it seems like we have seen a lot of Chris and Monique in conflict. And I could just tell you based on personal experience, I mean, that is not the totality of who they are. That is a small portion, I think, of some of the things that they probably go through. But when you see them together in real life, I mean, that's what you actually get to see. I mean, they're a lot more fun and they're very animated people in general. So it's nice to see again this balance. I feel like that we're getting on the show with everybody at this point in time, later in the season. So that's great. Jamie and Arena are setting up to do their TikToks. I have to hand it to them. I am not a TikTok or Instagram Reels type of person. It takes me forever to get those things done. Like when I'm trying to do them, I'll be like, oh my God. Like it's an hour or an hour and a half to 2 hour long process. So snaps to them. If you do follow them on Instagram, I mean, or Twitter or the TikTok, they be doing the doggone thing. But anyway, they get into this discussion about the intuitive healing session and how Jamie kind of gives bullish, like bully energy. Arena says that the lady was on point and he does get aggressive with her and the kids. He feels like he's just being disciplined. He's disciplining them and being motivating. And then she corrects him and says that maybe he's just aggressive with her and he's disciplining the kids. So they tap into his, kind of tough upbringing and how tough his dad was on him, which made him tough. And he says that he wouldn't mind going back to the intuitive healer with Arena. And I hope that we actually see that because I think this is the beginning of him finally starting to like crack that like shell and really giving us what we need to be given in terms of learning who he is to at his core, because we still ain't got that yet quite yet. Um Ashley's shooting the cover of her book. Monique stops by. They commiserate about the struggles of being a mom and then focusing on themselves. And, you know, um, Ashley makes a statement about how quick, is kind of like, yeah, you can have your little things that you do over here, but my things over here that he's doing is more important. And so Monique starts to talking about how she's rediscovered herself and whatnot. And Ashley is like, in her confessional, she says Monique is doing what she does best, talking about herself. Okay. And she says it's fine. I'm actually fine with that because she should stick to just talking about that. Because when she starts talking about everybody else, she drops these little nuggets that she has to go back and clean up. And I was like, oh my. And the way that Ashley said it, what I like about this show and I enjoy is that I don't feel like anyone is trying to come with any funny quips, any rehearsed reads. I feel like this is literally what she's thinking in this moment. And while it is shady towards Monique, I feel like what I'm getting from her is her absolute truth in the moment. And that is something else that I look for in a show that I can actually appreciate. Okay. So Monique starts to go into this, idea of her being a peacemaker and how it ain't working out quite well. And she reveals that she didn't say all the information that Winter said at brunch. And she tells Ashley that Winter gave Quick and Jamie nicknames. She called Quick DJ Fun Size, which Ashley's just kind of like, okay, well, whatever. He's short. I mean, like she kind of laughs at the whole situation and she brushes it off. And then it's also revealed that Winter called Jamie Red Light Special or something like that. Now, Monique says she's never known Winter to be messy, so she may have to have her own little small ponderosa with Winter to get to the bottom of whether or not she's messy or not. But the question is whether everything that Winter is going through is making her seem a certain type of way to the ladies. But Ashley is no longer interested in having any interactions with Winter, whether it be a small group Ponderosa or a big group Ponderosa. And I gotta say this, and because it needs to be said, especially after doing my interview with Winter and then just thinking about the show in general. Um, it's too early. Okay, the reality of the situation is Winter and Ashley would probably never interact outside of the confines of the show. That's the real life of it all, right? And I can understand why they wouldn't, because they probably just don't run in the same social circles, and they are honestly like oil and water. However, for the sake of reality TV, and the success of this show, I think that it is too early in the game for anybody to be not wanting to be around somebody enough to the point where you're not going to film with them or anything like that. Now, I don't quite know based on what we're seeing if it's gotten that far, but I would just simply say that on a show like this, you have to be able to, especially season one, try to still find ways to make the characters all work together for the good and the longevity of the show. Okay. Whether that means that you are fighting with her until the end of time, what we want to see right now is, because ultimately there has to be some drama and conflict on these types of shows. It just is what it is. That's the nature of TV. That's the nature of of movies and entertainment in general. There is conflict, there is struggle, and then there is overcoming it. Boom, that's the formula. So I'm gonna need everybody to pitch in and play their parts. Okay. Meanwhile, Chris and Quick meet up for foot massages. And this was another one of those scenes that I thought was very important. We really get into this idea of, men being able to cry and go through things as they're recapping their experiences with the intuitive healer. Quick is really trying to tap into, his emotions, and he's trying to get, Ashley to understand that even though he doesn't cry a lot, which is something that he learned growing up, even though he doesn't express those emotions, he still feels those emotions. And Chris really tries to kind of coach him through, like, what he's been learning and as he's been going through therapy, and ends up opening up to him about the lack of influence that he felt like he had growing up to learn certain skills that he feels like he needs in his marriage at this point. And he's having to learn these things through therapy, and he advises Quick to go through therapy. And the wild thing is, after all of the stuff that they talked about, and even after the stuff that was introduced from the energy intuitive healer, Quick still does not want to go to therapy because he says he doesn't want to go talk to a stranger about his problems. And it's just like, this is really speaking to the idea that a lot of times we experience in especially Black African American culture, is that we don't often want to go to therapy. But I feel like now we're in a space and a stage in life in general where we are starting to really understand the benefits of it, and we are really starting to utilize it, and we are really starting to come into our best selves because of therapy, especially us as Black men. And I think more Black men need to see other Black men going to therapy, experiencing breakthroughs, and having those aha moments that will lead them into becoming better and even more powerful kings that we are meant to be. You know what I'm saying? So again, this is one of the reasons why I enjoyed this episode so much, because we were getting, it fired on all cylinders for me. Okay. Every scene meant something, and I like that. Um, Erana is going to try to go get a skinny BBL consultation. She takes Ashley with her. If you have ever seen Erana on social media, you already know she has a banging body. The doctors is like, girl, I don't know where we're gonna pull this fat from to put into your BBL, because you ain't got no body fat, okay? And Arena reveals that similar to what the intuitive healer said, which is why that whole episode was so important, is that she is measuring herself by comparing herself to what she sees on social media, because she is so heavily into the social media space that it only makes sense that at a certain point you may start to compare yourself to others. And I think that whether or not she really goes through with it or not, we don't know that yet. Um I'm supportive of people who choose to do that, and I'm supportive of people who don't choose to do it. So I say if she wants to get it, go ahead, girl, like do your thing. But I mean, I don't know where they're gonna get the body fat from. So good luck on that. But at this point, that's where she learns that, Winter has called Jamie red light special, and Arena is really upset because that story that she told to Winter was meant to be in confidence, and she's upset and annoyed that it has now circulated so to the point where it's become a joke or a meme, a nickname, that is used in jest to refer to her husband. So she feels betrayed. And I can understand that. Um, so she is ready. She's mad and she's ready to meet up with Winter, and they're gonna have a Ponderosa. I enjoy a one-on-one Ponderosa. I do. I thoroughly enjoy these scenes. Some of my favorite Ponderosas were there was the Brandy and Jackie Ponderosa where Jackie's diamond fell off her ring. There was the Cynthia Bailey and Portia Ponderosa, I think that occurred in season, what was it, 7? And that went off the rails. There was also the Ponderosa that occurred between Cynthia and Phaedra, that Phaedra ended up walking out after threatening to beat Cynthia's ASS. Okay. These are the types of scenes that I feel like I need on. Oh, there was also the epic Nene versus Sheree, where they was talking, where Sheree was calling Tyrone and Sheree was getting to chasing Nene out of the scene. I love a Ponderosa, a one-on-one Ponderosa. Okay. So anyway, um, as Winter walks in, she says that she's ready to give the Sheen Queen a chance. And I'm like, is she talking about the Sheen, where the people buy all the clothes from? But anyway, they get right into it and what happened at Ashley's event. And Winter goes into talking about how long she's known Monique, and that they were just talking, and she was kind of venting about what had gone on and was just basically telling her how she was feeling. Now, Arena is just upset about this nickname, okay? This red light special nickname, because she feels like, how does anybody else know what we talked about? Like, that was a me and you moment where I was opening up to you. And, Winter's like, well, I'm really, a sarcastic person. And so the nickname just kind of came out. And Arena is like, nobody wants to hear that about their husband. And nobody should have known about that conversation. And that should have stayed between you and I. So then Winter says, well, Arena, you didn't say not to say anything about that. And while that is true, and while it was on the camera, I still think it is mostly the idea that I've told you a story that I've confided in you about, and you turned that story into a joke. That to me is the issue. Um, and so Arena's like, well, I shouldn't have to tell you not to tell nobody else that. That was a me and you conversation where we're getting to know each other, but now you've made it into something, that's not funny. And so then the whole conversation takes a dramatic turn when Arena asks her if she's mentally effed up in the head due to the things that she's experienced with these men in her life. And I said, oh, and you could see the look on Winter's face and realize that this conversation is about to go all the way left. So let me know in the chatterization, are you team Arena on this situation, or are you team Winter on this situation? Chime down in the chatterization down below. With that being said, that is the recap for Love and Marriage DC episode 7, Monique in the Middle. And make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell button, and I will catch you in the next video.